So let's see what are artificial neural networks, what are they and why do we need them, how different are they from other algorithms.
So before we discuss what are artificial neural networks and why do we need them, let's hear a quote from a scientist called John Denker. He says, neural networks are the second best way of doing just about anything. The first is understanding the problem. Means you cannot think neural networks as a solution for each and every problem. It cannot solve the problem by itself. You'll have to understand the problem to solve the problem. So let's begin with understanding what are artificial neural networks. So artificial neural networks are basically a mathematical or a statistical representation of a biological neural network or a network of biological neurons. So the artificial neural networks do not completely replicate the biological neural network. They're just inspired, so they're not identical, so do not completely relate the workings or the biological workings with the artificial neural networks.
So let's see the basic structure of an artificial neural network. So the simple most representation of an artificial neural network looks like this. So it has a input layer where you feed in your inputs and the output layer where the model gives the classification output or a regression output, for example, and it can also be unsupervised learning or reinforcement learning. And then in the hidden layer is where all the calculations, all the mathematical functionalities happen. So you might be wondering, why do we need artificial networks when there are other traditional algorithms like logistic regression, naive Bayes, decision trees, or unsupervised learning like clustering algorithms, etc. So we have found that, or the scientists have found that, the older algorithms do not perform very well when there's a huge number of data, huge quantity of data, and as the complexity or the type of data also changes. So for example, when we are dealing with audio or text or video, so at that moment artificial neural networks perform significantly better compared to the traditional algorithms. So let's see the advantages. So they can learn from examples without explicit programming. So that is what basically machine learning means. You don't have to explicitly program the functionality, and this can be done with older algorithms also. This is nothing special in artificial neural networks. And an advantage is that it will outperform the traditional algorithms that we just discussed or mentioned, and complex problems can be addressed. So as the complexity of the problem uh, increases, for example, image recognition, object recognition, or facial recognition, or voice detection, those things can be handled well when you utilize artificial networks or artificial neural networks rather than the older traditional algorithms. The older algorithms work very well when we are using a structured data, or it's more of a numerical data which is very well structured. You might have also come across a buzzword in data science that is being commonly used or very well promoted nowadays, which is called deep learning. So you might be wondering, what is deep learning? and what is the difference between artificial neural networks and deep learning. So deep learning is just a machine learning method based on ANNs, which is artificial neural network. So multiple or a complex version of neural network or artificial neural network is deep learning. So these are the complex versions of ANNs which has more than two hidden layers. So here you can see the representation of a simple neural network which is a basic ANN, and here you can see a deep learning network, deep learning neural network. So like I mentioned, you can this is the red dots are the input layer at the both examples. So the red dots here is the input layer, blue dots are the output layer, and the number of red dots and the blue dots vary as per the number of inputs and whether it's a regression task or a classification task and number of classes in the classification task. So coming back to the difference between a simple neural network and a deep learning neural network, the hidden layer, which is represented by the yellow circles, you can see that in a simple neural network there's just one hidden layer. The whole line or array of yellow dots is one layer, and here you can see there's 1 2 3 4 layers of hidden layer. So this is basically what makes a deep learning neural network. So let's see the advantages of artificial neural network. So from now on you can just think of deep learning as a subset of artificial neural networks, because the deep learning uh, representations are basically built using the simpler artificial neural networks. It's basically more number of hidden layers, so you don't have to treat them in a special manner.